folks, Jason McCutcheon here. I've been promising a series of videos for some time describing my experiences after having suffered an injury in February, on February 24th, 2018, and a re-injury on May 7th. The reason for the videos is because my condition was getting seriously worse, and it wasn't until much later where we began to see what had happened or transpired that basically caused me to become crippled within a little over a year's time. There was a lot of misinformation. There was a lot of changes that were happening during that time in what was being reported and what was being told me or reported to Rose Hours, and what my employer-paid doctor was, informing me of. We're trying to get through this as quick as possible, and not get tied up in emotional aspect of it, which is very easy to do, because today I have lost, so much function of my legs. I have constant pain in my low back, with the extreme weakness and with pain in my legs. And so I guess, I'll just start it this way. What basically is going on here is that on February 24th, I suffered an injury while picking up a tub of meat from under the butcher block. Tubs of meat are, can be, filled up, I bet you if you just stack them high, they could be over 45 pounds. But anyways, the context surrounding that injury have been grossly misrepresented. For example, they sent in a, the employer sent in, time punches during that time, starting on the 18th, to the Intermountain Claims, which is a third-party claims adjudicator or manager, and because they want to know what's going on. Well, the employer sent in these time punches indicating that they were giving me X number of days off during that time. Well, it wasn't until the latter part of this year where we began to look into this more thoroughly and found that the employer was not representing my days and all of that. And because I realized that, a number of inconsistencies, like in March, the employer was noting that the employer was giving me the 8th, the 6th, 7th, 8th, and 9th off. Now this is, this was the first visit was the 7th, which was the initial visit with a primary care provider paid for by the employer. And in this visit, and I was also being treated by a chiropractic. I had an x-ray performed on March 6th, and in this x-ray report it states mild age-related changes only, and stated that L4 and 5 vertebrae in the lumbar was the only troubled area where there's some disc height loss. But I've included in my Facebook account, on Facebook, a picture of, that x-ray, which showed that I had, the curve, the curve in the spine was there, the natural curve, and all the disc spaces were good, indicating that the discs were good as well. And so, what you basically have, and I feel so unprepared for this, anyways, I will show you in later pictures. And so basically it said 6th, 7th, 8th, 9th. Well, the 6th was the x-ray that they performed after injury, and the 7th was my initial doctor appointment visit. The thing that I want to share with you is that the employer was, the company was struggling to find floaters. At the same time I got injured, there was another meat cutter at a local store here that also injured himself, injured his shoulder. This employee was afforded 2 months off initially, and then came back and still had pain in his shoulder, and so they gave him an initial 3 months off for a pulled shoulder. The only floater we had at that time was transferred to that store while this injured employee recovered. But so there wasn't any coverage, during that time, and so anything like this, having to take off earlier, having to take off a day, really aggravated the employer. In fact, they pretty much let me know that, that any time that I needed, time or what have you. Here's another important aspect to this first injury is that during this time, because they have invested a lot in attacking my character, saying that I'm not focused, concentrated, I can't stick on task and stuff like that, which is a total farce. Because I've cut meat over the years for about 14 years, over the course of my life, and 13 of that was retail, 12 or 13. And so I knew what I was doing. I could go into a department, and pick up, their whole process of doing things, relatively quickly. And so when I was first hired or transferred to this store in the Valley in the latter part of 2017, I started off as well, basically the low man on the totem pole. I was the third cutter, and so when you're the new guy, you basically get the worst shifts, you get the worst duties, and I would clean the meat department at nights. When freight would come in, this is kind of just a detail of my duties during this time. And one other thing I'd like to mention, I have always been detail oriented when it comes to the meat department. I was a skilled mechanic, I was a meat cutter, and I also drove truck in North Dakota and Texas without issue. I need to state that up front, without issue. And so working for this store, I basically worked Friday to Tuesday. That was my scheduled time. When as we go through this real quick here, my days, the manager would take Friday off, or work Friday, take Saturday off, work Sunday, and take Monday off. Well, there's 2 freight days, and the other guy would take Friday off and work Saturday, and take Sunday off and work Monday. So he's picking up 1 freight day, and then then the wrapper would take off Monday and Sunday and Monday. I would work Friday, Saturday, Sunday, Monday, and Tuesday. Well, Friday, Monday, and Wednesday are your freight days. And also I need to state right up front that the first of the month ads, and this will be important as we go forward, the first of the month ads are the busiest. They're the first of the month, welfare, food stamps, disability, all those things are coming in at the first of the month. And so it's naturally going to be more busy than normal. Tuesdays are typically busy as well because you have your ad change prep where you're not only cutting for previous ad, but you're cutting for the next week's ad, which starts on Wednesday. My duties always were as follows. This is a drawing of the meat department. This is your cooler, and so the freight would come in here, and then the first pallet, because they're switching, the meat manager and his second are switching every other day off during the weekend. Of course, the weekends, Friday and Saturday, are a lot of times extremely busy. It's the weekend, people want to get out and do things, and that's their shopping days. But anyways, the first pallet would come in, and this would be your hot dogs, your deli meats, just things like that. And so the first pallet they would be putting out here in this cooler. They would actually start this before I would get there in the morning, and they'd be putting this out. Could take upwards of 2.5 hours depending on the day of the week. Wrappers off Sunday and Monday, and so if it's one of those days, they're doing this and they're also doing the wrapping and then the managerial duties. I'm putting this case together. This is a full service, and I'll come back here and And so they're taking this and putting this up, you know, these things up on the first pallet up here, and then the freezer and all that. And you know, one of the reasons they do that is so that they know that they got what they ordered. These pallets, you know, would typically get 1.5, 2, depending on the add-in. And so these pallets could range, I don't know, 800 to 1,500 pounds, depending on the products, you know, we have, or what what the sale is. So I would be offloading these pallets, you know, and these pallets, you know, throwing them against the wall or, you know, on the shelves and whatnot, you know, to get that done as quick as possible. It could take upwards to 45 minutes, you know, to get those things offloaded. And then I'd put some on a cart to wheel out here to be cut up. Okay, so anyways, that gives you a definition. I always did the freight right here. That was my responsibility. Do you think that when the wrapper's off that, you know, they're going to be, you know, back here doing this, they're going to be doing this, and they're going to be taking care of the case pulls for the morning and repricing and all those kind of things? That's their job. My job has always been these pallets of freight. So, and we understand that, you know, their schedule. Well, so anyways, I'm injured on February 24th. I go to chiropractic treatment, which has been, you know, very grossly misrepresented, you know, by my employer, because the first visit that I made was to a Dr. Price here, and I'm not doing well. I was injured on the 24th. I'm working the 25th, you know, and saying, hey guys, I'm hurt. You know, they don't have anybody to fill in for my spot, so I'm already feeling kind of pressured. But I called in sick on the 26th of February because I wasn't doing very well. In fact, we got text messages between me and my wife. So I had to call in to come in and to be seen by him. And this was, this right here, I got in to be seen by him, and I went in and I got a note, you know, where you draw your chief complaints and stuff. And it was on the right side, kind of central right side. Well, you need to keep in mind that there's a lot of things that changed during this time. And one other thing to keep in mind is that all that I was ever told throughout the whole course by my PCP, and this needs to be noted right up front, is that I had a lumbar strain. That is everything that they ever said to me, and it's based off the x-rays, you know, all age-related changes, nothing serious. I was never told anything else. And so this doctor, and he notes, you know, he states on there, I tell him right side, he does right side adjustment, and then later on I get the whole file in August, because things aren't getting better, and so I get the whole file from Intermountain Claims, and it's then, you know, kind of later even on than that I learned that he actually went back and he changed this to left side. And that's very important to take note of, because in May I was re-injured during a hamburger ad, and it was more focused on the left side. Throughout this time, you know, from February, March, April, I'm taking 1,500 to 2,000 milligrams of Tylenol and or ibuprofen, you know, and it's alleviating the issues. In fact, on this first day in March, when I get in to be seen by this primary care doctor that was recommended it, now I reported the injury on the 25th of February, and then I went in to see another doctor or chiropractor on the 28th, and then we filed a claim. And then I went in to be seen by my PCP on the 7th. Now you got to remember, they were having me work because there wasn't anybody to fill in for me. And so on that day, you know, okay, so the 7th, and then okay, so I go in there on the 7th, and I was seen by her, lumbar strain, and that's it, and back to work. It's always back to work because there wasn't enough help, period. In fact, it's very important that you realize this, is that, you know, that the company was having a hard time finding meat cutter floaters. In fact, when I was transferred to this store, there was only one other guy behind me. And then after an injury, and about the same time I was injured, you know, that one went to 29th. Well, you got 7 stores in Spokane, okay? The meat cutters, the senior meat cutters are typically afforded 4 weeks off vacation time, and so that's coming. And then, you know, if somebody gets sick or injured or something like that, you know, there isn't any coverage. And so that's very important that you realize that, because with this company it was always back to work. You know, and there's documents you'll see later on that substantiate this company didn't afford me anything for injury. So anyways, I missed an appointment in there on the 21st. You know, I come in, she schedules me out 2 weeks after that. Well, I'm working in there and I'm hurting, and she's 35 minutes uptown, and then it's on the 21st of 21st of March, and I'm hurting, and so I'm down here, right here on this floor, and we're calling in and saying, man, I just can't make it. I am hurting. And so anyways, we move forward, you know, and I start getting better chiropractic care and all that stuff, and then I see this doctor on April 12th. Again, okay, so I go in there, and, you know, everything, you know, she knows everything's fine. You know, of course, I am continuing the Tylenol and ibuprofen and just unaware of the fact, you know, until later on that, you know, I was not feeling what was happening to my spine, and you'll see the results of all this. And I was telling them I was taking these things, and so it was just back to work, back to work, back to work. But in April, I went in there to see her, and